Jeff Gordon, Kurt Busch battling. That's back at 22nd. In fact, both those cars trying to hang on to the lead lap, about 9.5 seconds off the lead right now. That's how your Pizza Hut fan favorite driver's doing. Now Gordon's been on the lead lap all night. Kurt Busch has not. Had that unscheduled pit stop for a loose wheel.
And of those 83 Sprint Cup Series wins that Jeff Gordon has in that 24 car, the first one came here in the Coke 600 in the spring of 1994.
You know, just follow up a little bit more on what Matt was asking me. Things like that you can't get away from. You can't stop during the race and drill a hole in the seat and let the water out of it.
You might can change the air conditioning box.
Yeah, yeah, but there's just some things in there you're not going to be able to do anything with. You're going to have to live with it.
You know, Jolie Johnson won the first World 600 here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and the second one went to a young unheralded driver. Ray Fox needed a driver for his car. How about that young kid David Pearson? Never heard of him, said Fox. Watched Pearson race a little bit, said I'll give you a try. And Pearson came here and won the World 600, and then went on to have a career that included 11 straight pole positions at this racetrack.
If you think about Bruton Smith and you think about this racetrack, they didn't start out with a 300 miler. They didn't start out with a 400. They didn't start out with a 500 miler. This has always been a 600 mile race.
Darrell, we're getting to the time of night that we ran the Sprint All-Star race last week. And it appears now, and I know we haven't been that long since these guys changed tires, that the drivers, for the most part, they've moved it down to the bottom of the racetrack at both ends.
Yeah, well, when it cools down, you know, that's the fastest way. Right where you see that 11 car, get that left tire down on that white line, there's a lot of grip right there.
We're at sundown, just about 8:30 p.m. Last year, sundown occurred at lap 220. We've completed 206, so right in that same ballpark. And the bright lights come up as Paul Menard, racing with 20 stitches in his right foot after stepping on a piece of metal on his dock during one of the off days this week. And there's Brad Keselowski, the pole winner. Keselowski running in ninth. And Dale Earnhardt Jr., who at one point was the fastest car on the racetrack just before caution waved, he's fought his way back into the top 10.
You know, Mike, the last thing you want to hear right now, we just passed halfway. We got a long way to go, boys.
Second place, Ambrose and Edwards. Ambrose driving as a teammate to Allmendinger's 43 for Richard Petty Motorsports. Reborn from a team that ran Dodges last year, and the team was all but dissolved. Financiers stepped in, and from the bones of that operation created this new team with Richard Petty as team principal, racing Fords.
You know, back in the day, Mike, we didn't have these big scoring pylons like they got now. These guys can look over there and see what lap they're on, what position they're running in.
You know, real quick, if you think about Matt Kenseth, our leader, and Marcos Ambrose running second, they stayed out on the last two cautions. They're going to have to beat a pit road in about the next 12 to 15 laps. But you ride with Jimmy Johnson here in the 48 car that's running in 13th. He was one of several drivers that came to pit road at lap 181 on that fourth caution. He can go a lot further than some of our drivers leading right now.
Matt Kenseth won yesterday's race in a substitute role, and one of the first to congratulate him was the fella out of that seat, Trevor Bayne.
What is Matt Kenseth's secret weapon? If only we knew. Keep watching NASCAR on Fox.
216 laps complete. Let's take a ride with five-time Jimmy Johnson, seeking his 7th Charlotte win tonight. And use your Lowe's consumer credit card to take 5% off every day.
Mike was just riding along there with Jimmy Johnson, and I noticed sticking his hand out the window a little bit, trying to get some air in that race car. A lot of these drivers are complaining about being really hot and wanting something cold to drink on the next pit stop.
Well, I think not only is the air temperature still warm, we saw it all day long. It's very humid. real humid outside.
Well, the race car, the ambient temperature cools down on the outside, but that race car's it's got heat built into it. There's things that you'd have to take a hose in there and put water on it to cool it off.
Johnson's 11 seconds off the lead, and that right there is the reason why. Matt Kenseth just keeps picking him up, putting him down. His last lap of 30 seconds flat. Not quite the quickest lap. That goes to Jimmy Johnson that last lap at a 29.91. And Kenseth had to slow up to work a little race traffic there in the form of Dave Blaney. And you see that Carl Edwards lurks just 2.6 seconds back. To find a car that is not a Ford, you have to go all the way back to 6th place, and that's the Toyota of Denny Hamlin. Dick?
Denny Hamlin's crew is on their feet, Mike. He has told them that the car is losing power. He is losing RPM as well. He has gone to the second ignition box much earlier in this race, so changing ignition boxes is not a solution to his problem. Mike Ford, his crew chief, is offering suggestions, but Hamlin definitely with engine problems here.
And pit road is suddenly busy as Kevin Harvick pulls in.
I don't know, his car doesn't like 2 tires. I heard him say that.
Krista?
You could definitely say that, DW. In fact, he said our car just isn't good enough to handle 2 tires, so expect a 4-tire change here. Kevin Harvick also saying that the last adjustment they made previous to that stop was a track bar adjustment. He didn't like that either, but yes, they do come around for a 4-tire change for Harvick.
You know, the first part of the season, he was the closer. He was the guy who could get there in the closing laps. Now he's got 180 left to figure out how to do that again tonight. But he's got a deficit to make up now.
Well, maybe when he gets off of probation, he might step it back up a notch too. Don't forget about that.
A.J. Allmendinger, the outside pole sitter, surrenders 4th place to come to pit road. Dick?
They have gotten Allmendinger's car closer and closer as they count him down right now. Neither Allmendinger nor his crew chief, Mike Shiflett, have won a big-time race in the position they're in. Krista.
Brad Keselowski said his car is tight in the center, but everything else seems pretty good. He also said, I need front grip. Brad Keselowski, another one of the cars that didn't pit on the last stop. When he was in, they did take 4 tires, though, and that looks like they're coming around for 4 once again.
Montoya finishes his stop, and Menard. These are all cars that were on pit road 50 laps ago at lap 172. Matt?
Impressive run by Menard, Mike, fighting off that foot injury. The entry of his car is good into the corner. It's a little tight, especially on exit of turn 4. He wanted a small change in the right side air pressure on that 27 machine.
Third place, Marcus Ambrose coming in.
Mike, he really likes his race car. Don't expect any changes to the 9 car. He does get a windshield tear off, having a bit of a hard time seeing out of that front windshield. But second can of gas going in, no other adjustments for Marcus Ambrose. 4 tires this time. He took 2 on the last stop, lap 171.
12th place Regan Smith on pit road, and here's Kenseth. Kenseth is in, the leader.
The only hiccup tonight from that Kenseth, that wheel vibration, that took it back to Goodyear, couldn't find anything wrong with it. The car has been pretty flawless. This is no adjustments to stop. Let's leave it to see what it'll do this segment and how much that track will change, Steve.
Well, Matt, Carl Edwards saying that the car is still tight. They're going to take some air out of the left front tire. Krista.
Kyle Busch talked about pulling a spring rubber out. They would only do that under yellow. Instead, it's going to be wedge, air pressure adjustment, and a tear off. They asked Kyle, do you want an ice bag? He said no.
Again, all these cars came in from lap 172. The last of those is the 11 of Denny Hamlin that's on pit road now, along with Ruderman and Jimmy Johnson.
See Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the left there. He is now our leader. He was a lot like his teammate Jimmy Johnson. He can probably run another 8 to 10 laps because he was in on that caution where a lot of the leaders stayed out.
Regan Smith has to come back to pit road. They missed a lug nut on his number 78. Steve.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr., they stayed out, as Larry said, to lead a lap. Dale saying that the car is good. 4 tires for Dale Earnhardt Jr. They're also going to make a slight air pressure adjustment to help get him dialed in. 4 tires for Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Here's
Matt.
Mark.
and the 39 of Ryan Newman is in. He says his car pretty good, just a little bit on the tight side. He didn't want many major changes to this 39. Air pressure from Tony Gibson.
Mark Martin, Bobby Labonte, and Brian Vickers are in. Here comes Greg Biffle.
Didn't surprise me that Kyle Busch didn't want any ice or anything. He's probably one of the few guys that is conditioned to run long races. You know, runs 3 nights a week. Sometime when we have 3 events at the same track, I think he can handle it.
Tony Stewart picks up the lead. He was last on pit road at lap 183, 47 laps ago. So he, Clint Boyer, Jeff Gordon, and Kurt Busch can go a few more laps before they need to come.
Yeah, the problem is, though, Mike, and I think that's what Dale Earnhardt Jr. and that group realize, is you're going to be giving up a lot of time to the drivers that has the fresher tires. What these guys right here, like Stewart, Boyer, Kurt Busch, and Gordon need, they need a caution in the next few laps. In fact, Jeff Gordon in the 24 is on pit road now.
Well, you know, the 14 almost won Texas with this same strategy. Staying out, staying out.
That's right. Krista?
And yes, they are one of the ones who came in around 182, but as you remember, it wasn't for balance issues, it was for radio. The radio working much better now as the crew comes around to make the 4-tire change. Jeff Gordon has had a very tight race car most of the night.
Boyer is in, and that will leave just Stewart and Kurt Busch out on the racetrack in this sequence. Steve?